So, well, welcome everyone to a new live interview here at Natural Languages. And yeah, today I have Bryan with us, my friend Bryan from South Africa, but living in Vietnam. So, whole lot of experiences that we can ask him about, right?
Epic. Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Alvaro, for having me.
It's my pleasure. And well, like the title suggests, I mean, we're gonna talk about different things related to language learning, but I'm especially interested in your journey learning Zulu, right?
Mm,
Because,
mm.
well, you're from South Africa, but English, your native language, right?
Yeah. So my family's from England, but 1821 they came um, into South Africa. So yeah, been in South Africa for 200 years, and yeah, with English as first language. Yeah.
Correct. And yeah, and I'm especially interested in Zulu because many times people ask me about, how would you learn language that is not quote unquote so popular?
Mm,
Because with English, French,
mm.
Spanish, German, you're gonna find a lot of resources online, already. But
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah,
to Zulu, it's
yeah.
probably like we're gonna get into it in a moment, but it's probably gonna
Mm.
be a little different because you don't have as many resources available, right?
Yeah, especially learning resources. Resources made tailored for
Right,
people learning the
right, right,
language
right.
are quite
Yeah.
quite
Mhm.
rare. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna find resources, but for natives, right? Like not just like normal
Yes.
TV.
Like content for yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Cool. Okay. So yeah, with that little introduction, I think we can get started. And of course, as usual, for everyone watching, thanks for being here first of all, and feel free to comment anytime, ask us any question you may have about Bryan's journey with Zulu, or like I said, we'll probably get into other topics related to language acquisition and um, resources that we use and things like that. So feel free to comment and ask any question. We'll be happy to answer it.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, let's get started with your Zulu journey, Bryan. And again, like we talked
Yeah.
about, you're from South Africa, but your native language is English. So when and
Hmm.
why did you decide to learn Zulu?
So yeah, mostly people think that I learned growing up on a farm, which is where most non-native speakers would learn isiZulu, because it's quite rare to learn later on. So I only started learning at university. I knew a few words before, picked up things from isn't that at home. I knew ukwatape, avocado pear, and ilanga is this. I knew isinkwa, bread. I knew a few words in that,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing, nothing much. Um, so went to university. My father told me, "You're gonna study something. It doesn't matter what. You're just going to. You're gonna have to do it." So went to university with not much idea of what to study. We were in a big auditorium, all of us first year students, and people departments would come in, their subjects. So account came in and sort of bored everyone with numbers. Drama came in and digital play. Big like guy wearing short khaki, like farmer clothes,
Okay.
short khaki pants with a collared khaki shirt and leather shoes with pulled up socks. And he came and stood in front of all of us and said, "Yes, sanibonani nonke ninjani," in like deep farm isiZulu. He spoke to all of us, and everyone went mad. They just thought this was the best thing ever. That a white person, non-native speaker, could speak such pure, authentic Zulu. So I thought, yeah, I want to be like that guy.
But did anyone understand what he said, or?
Yeah, most of the students were Zulu speakers.
Okay,
My
okay.
university was a Zulu in KwaZulu Natal, in Zulu, the province where Zulu is spoken.
Hmm.
And so most of the prospective students were Zulu speakers.
Okay.
So not, I mean, there's, people can study Zulu at university as well as a mother tongue. There's a mother tongue course and then a non-mother tongue course.
Hmm.
So yeah, so lecturer at UKZN at Pietermaritzburg, there's a university there, inspired me to start.
Cool.
And yeah,
So that was the fire, right?
that was the fire.
Okay, okay. And yeah, obviously, like you said, you had, I mean, you knew a few words here and there, right, at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that was your first contact with Zulu, just that course, right? And I'm guessing it wasn't comprehensible input from the beginning, right?
Not at all. No, no,
Okay.
not. Yeah, I mean, very good teachers, great lecturers, but yeah, coming from the grammar approach and sort of audiolingual approach
Mm,
of we had language laboratories. I didn't use them much, but you could go with a little tape recorder and you'd listen to something and record yourself saying it and then listen to yourself back or something.
okay.
Um, that was a course that we had. So yeah, so I mean, varsity wise, yeah, it was not comprehensible input,
Hmm.
but yeah, so the 3 years of isiZulu at varsity through the grammar approach. So learned through the grammar approach.
Mm. And how would you rate your Zulu after those 3 years? Or how much could you understand? How much could you communicate?
It's a great question. So I had, after 3 years, I had a dear friend. Used to chat to him a lot in isiZulu, and he told me, Bryan, you speak Zulu well, but you sound like a machine gun going off, like da 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 da, all your syllables, no variation, no flow to the language. You sound like a machine gun, man. So yeah, so too much output or not enough input, and we
Mm.
don't learn naturally.
Yeah, and pretty artificial output, I'd say as well, right? Because it wasn't like you were talking to people; we just
Yeah,
repeating what you were listening to, like a gun machine, like you said, right? A machine gun, right? Like,
yeah. I think if you don't have enough authentic input, so we would speak a lot about Zulu uh, Zulu grammar in English. Have
mm,
have class in English
mm-hmm,
and speak about isiZulu grammar, and that's fine. I think to a point, isiZulu grammar is so different from English grammar. There's a chart. I think a U.S. Diplomats or the U.S. spends a lot of time training employees or army forces in different languages, and they've made this big chart that charts out the amount of hours it takes English speakers to
mm-hmm,
learn other languages. Um, and according to that chart, isiZulu is right down on the difficult list. So the
okay.
easy list from English. Um, Let me see if I can find it at some point.
Is it
Um,
because grammar is simple, or because of it's somewhat related to it? Because I mean, I'm just it sounds crazy to me that Zulu would be one of the easiest as opposed to, I don't
one
know.
of the most difficult. No,
Ah,
one of
okay,
the most
okay. Sorry,
difficult.
sorry
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that. Okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So right down on the list of difficulty.
mm.
Um, where's this map? Anyway, I'll have a look in a bit. So basically,
Like
so it just
completely,
takes a
completely
very
different, right? Okay. So,
yeah, yeah. Um, so it takes a long time to learn these things, to learn a language like this. Can I share my
uh-huh.
screen in a second? Yeah, is that
Yeah, you
possible?
can. 1 second. Can
Oh, there
you?
you go.
Yeah, you have the
Yeah, yeah,
option.
yeah. I'll do it from here. Yeah. Can I just start that? Does that make sense?
1 second. Yeah, there you go.
Is that going?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, cool. So very
Oh,
very nice map. Can you see this? As an English speaker,
mm-hmm.
the amount of hours it takes to learn different sort of categories of languages. So languages that are similar to English are in the red. 24 weeks, or I think down here we have about 600 hours.
Okay, okay.
So Afrikaans and Dutch. And so Afrikaans is a language in South Africa,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which my sister and I learned in 1 month. We moved to an Afrikaans town and went to Afrikaans school from no Afrikaans, and we went to extra Afrikaans classes after school, and within 1 month we were fine.
Cool.
absolutely fluent. I remember at one point I raised my hand to answer a question in class, and I asked the teacher, can I respond to the question in English? And he said yes. So, and then I responded to the question, but realized I had responded in Afrikaans without
Okay.
meaning to. Sort of 1 month into living in a new city, a new school in Afrikaans, everything was sorted very quickly. It's on the
So it
easy
was like,
list. So
that was like pure immersion, but in a language that is
yeah,
so close, right? Like,
so close. Yeah, so very very nice language to learn. Very much easier than most. Very simplified grammar. But yeah, so isiZulu is 600
down
hours
there.
about for
Yeah.
these. isiZulu is not in category 2, not in category 3, but down in number 4 we are um, with isiZulu.
Like
This is
completely different languages, right?
yeah. So the second to last category here, we've got 2,200. It was mostly because of writing styles,
Yeah, like Arabic,
writing systems,
Mandarin, yeah.
hmm
Yep.
and living in Vietnam. Unfortunately for me, we have Vietnamese in the difficult
Same
category.
group, yeah.
Um, so yeah, let me stop this share here.
Yep.
Let me back here.
Okay. So yeah, completely different language, right? And
So it makes sense that you would teach the grammar at university. Is my point. It's what I was trying to say all this
mhm.
time. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then after those 3 years, how do you go on with your Zulu journey? Like, did you? Yeah. What do you do after that? Like, do you? Well, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So during the 3 years, what I would do is I take the grammar lesson that we had for the day and go out into the wild and just break it on someone, just like say a bunch of stuff, just try whatever I'd learned and whatever, being young and brave and fearless helps. I
Mhm.
think there's definitely a polyglot personality, someone who's outgoing and just doesn't care about being laughed at or laughed with, whatever.
Mhm.
So I'd take the Zulu, go try it out wherever I could, and I'd got realizing later lots and lots of comprehensible input through the people I was speaking to.
Mm.
So my Zulu gains came from what people would say back to me.
Right.
So my comprehensible input came from there. Oh, we've got a comment, yeah? Moving back to South
Yeah.
Africa. There we go.
Yeah. Go ahead, and you can.
Sorry,
I'll put in. Yeah. Like.
Sorry, Calvin.
No words. Yeah. So
Oh,
Killian said, "Hey Brian, I'm moving back to South Africa and want to learn Zulu. I've tried emailing you on more than one occasion with no luck. Hope when I'm back next month, I will have better luck." All right.
I'm so sorry, Calvin. It might be lost somewhere. I'll please email again. Let me put my. Can I put chats here? Can I reply to this in the chat?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Where's my chat?
Okay.
I'll
I
just put
mean,
an email.
I can, but I guess you do too.
I don't have a. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thanks so much,
No worries,
Calvin.
brother.
I'm
I'm a big
sorry
fan.
again. Let me just send my email address to here again.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, of course, I didn't mention it, but if anyone's interested in learning Zulu, besides Kelvin,
Great.
um,
Thanks, Calvin.
go ahead
Um,
and email Brian.
thank you.
So
Um,
the you
yeah, I sent it just in. I can't access the chat here. I've sent it to. Oh, okay, I can send it here in Messenger. But
okay?
okay, I've got another chat here.
Yeah, I'll put in the chat. Perfect. So
Epic.
yeah,
So
you were talking about your journey, like you were using what you learned in class out there in the real world. But I'm guessing it was difficult at the beginning, meaning that you sort of prepare the things you want to say, right? But
yes,
then you could say that, but the problem came from the moment in which they replied because you didn't understand, did you?
yes, 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 yes.
Right?
So yeah, it's a great point there. So the what I did find was I was coming, through grammar rules,
Yeah.
having learned the grammar rules, having learned a bunch of this plus this is that, I'd go up to someone, think of okay, subject, and then tense, and then verb, and then any endings, and then yeah, yeah, and I'd
Classic.
say something, blah, 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 and then it doesn't matter what they say back to me because I'd be like, no, 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 I've got to think of the next thing to say. Okay, my next
Hmm.
response. So I wasn't listening to people a lot of the time because I was so focused on saying these things that I needed to say that I wanted to try and figure out how to say properly. So I
Hmm.
was not listening very much and taking a long time. The effective filter going on. Um, ondas de verdad. Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? Hola. Adrian. Sorry.
Yeah, so well, here's Brian's email. It's on the chat. So if everyone's interested in learning, I mean for you, Kelvin, but if anyone's interested in learning Zulu, right? And then yeah, how's it going, Adrian? Yeah, Brian speaks Spanish, Adrian, but we'll stick to English as
Hablaremos
we did
en
in English
inglés por
here.
ahora. Sí.
Hmm. But nice to have you here again, Adrian. It's a pleasure. How everything's going well down there in Argentina. He's from Argentina. Uh,
Sehr cool, man.
Brian.
Look.
It's Southern Hemisphere fellow like you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very good.
And so yeah, welcome back, Adrian. Nice to see you there. And yeah, so you're talking about that. Like you were focused on saying what you wanted to say and thinking about what you were going to say next,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you weren't listening, right?
Not much at all. Yeah. I mean, it's at points. I realized that at one point. It's obviously not all the time. Um, but again, so from that, another thing you mentioned, which I like, is how do you start coming from a low level with a bunch of grammar rules? How do you even
Hmm.
start going to people and chatting? So that was a big thing in the beginning. I would get language headaches. My head would just be screaming from
Right.
too high level language. So just a tiny bit is comprehensible, but just the wrong level of language. We're looking for I plus one, sort of what we know plus a little bit extra, a lot of that to be learning a little bit over a long period of time, but
Yep.
just sort of too much too much information at once is just very overwhelming. And I'd get that because I'd speak mostly to security guards,
Okay.
guys sitting in a chair outside somewhere, sitting in a little house somewhere, got nothing to do all day. So go stand by and learn people's names and yeah, just get chatting. Made some very good friends. Um, One guy I found out was a writer. He wrote down traditional folk tales. Maybe I'll send a link at some point on the um, in the chats. But he's just a beautiful storyteller.
Nice.
So we recorded some videos of his. I went and visited his homestead in Melmoth, out in the rural areas. So some beautiful connections.
Nice. That's a nice trick. Like just go like if you wanna if you wanna practice your language and you're in a place where you can actually do that, Just
Yeah.
find yourself some security guard or someone who's
Security
just
guards.
sitting there all day. Okay, okay.
Gold and
Oh,
gold, gold, gold.
they'll probably be happy to talk with anyone, right? So,
Very happy, yeah.
and plus, that's from someone who's learning their language, right? It's
Mhm.
always nice to be around with someone who's trying to learn your native language, right? So that's
Yeah,
good
yeah,
tip,
yeah.
good tip.
Very meaningful, yeah.
Cool, cool.
Epic.
But yeah, I perfectly understand what you're saying. Like what you're listening to is not comprehensible, so you're making an extra effort to try to understand that. Then you're
Mhm.
also, for the most part, you're consciously thinking about what you want to say next, which also is crazy work for your mind, right? So I
Yeah.
perfectly understand that you were feeling exhausted after, you know, half an hour
Mhm.
or even less than that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, big brain headaches.
And
Um,
also, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but those security guards or other people, like at some point, they had to adjust to your level, meaning that like most native speakers, because we're used to speaking in our native language fluently, fast, and just like normal speed. Most people don't make that adjustment,
mhm.
and even people who want to make it, they're not used to
It's
it, so it takes time. But
very difficult to, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
remember
the
any.
mm, other issue I find with learning, but sometimes people will try and teach you, but just words.
Yeah.
Say this is a this, and this is a this, this is a this. It's like that's fine, but I just want to have whole language input so I can learn all of it, not just the bones.
Yeah, I just
That
want a
you,
normal conversation. The only
yeah.
thing is you need to slow down, use simple words if possible, things like
Mm,
that, right? Not just
mhm.
sort of translate isolated words, like you said. Like this is
Yeah,
hand,
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. Um,
And do you remember any breakthrough, any moment when you
um,
started? Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember in my third year, so I'd studied with the same sort of group through through a few years, and I remember walking into class the one day, and there was some construction guys outside of class, and as we're walking in, I'm chatting to the construction guys in Zulu, saying, "Yeah, what's happening? What's going? What you making? Okay, cool. Like, what you names or whatever." And we walk into class, and my classmates, they turn to me and they're like, "What did you just say? Like, what are you talking about?" The people that have had done as much university as me could not understand what just happened, the conversation that I just had,
Mm-hmm.
because I was getting so much more practice through or just input through speaking to people around the place. So
Mm-hmm.
by third year, um, it was just in another different level because I got the natural input. And I remember speaking to a professor, walking in the hall, I was speaking to the professor of Zulu, the mother tongue course, the first language course. So not
Mm-hmm.
someone that had taught me, and was chatting in Zulu. I said hello, chatting, whatever. And the
Mm-hmm.
professor said to me, "Where did you learn Zulu? You grew up on a farm, whatever." I said, "No, I learned Zulu here at university." I said, "Yeah, but where did you learn before?" I said, "No, I started Zulu here at university." And the professor said, "No, you didn't. This is not this is not university Zulu. Yeah, you don't speak like that having studied at university, like so in a natural way or whatever."
Right, right, right.
Mm,
Because
mm,
probably like that course, those 3 years, I mean, the first 2 years prior to that experience, it was helpful enough for you to be able to understand the real world conversations, which
mm,
is the actual reason why
mm,
you got so good, right? So
mm.
it was good enough to be
Yeah,
able to use the real world as
yeah,
the
yeah,
real teacher, again, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
great. Yeah, the grounding in grammar has definitely helped me figure out the language. As I was saying,
Mhm.
it's so different. It's down on the list number 4,000 hours versus twice the amount of hours. as Afrikaans or whatever, and so that with a totally different grammar, it's a whole different sort of map that is useful to have from having learned the grammar. I often find my students get just very lost, like um, why is this there and why is that there? But once you sort of know the map, then there's very few exceptions and a lot more makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So like just enough to get an idea, to get a grasp of the language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we go on, let me say hi to Christine. And
Yeah.
she's learning Spanish.
Hola,
Well,
hola.
nice to have you here again, Christine. It's a pleasure to read that you're doing well. Yeah. Or I mean, I hope you're doing well. You're still up in Canada. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, happy to have you here again, Christine. And okay,
Adrian is
Adrian. So it's yeah. I'll just translate. I mean, but is
no,
Zulu
you say
really very
more
more
difficult
difficult
than
than
the
the rest?
rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you understand, but just because we're doing it in English, just
Mhm.
for
Sure, sure.
people listening to this that don't speak Spanish, right?
Epic.
So is it way more? I mean, more difficult than the others?
It's yeah. So I think we had. Let me just quickly share this map again, and I'll show you. Um, it's sort of a map of languages from English, different levels of time. Languages aren't, I think, more difficult than each other. They just take more time, more different, and so take more time
Hmm.
than other languages. Languages similar to English would be French and Spanish and Portuguese and Norwegian and that. Going
Hmm.
to German, more difficult. Category 4 is more difficult. Russian and those languages. And that's where isiZulu is.
Hmm.
Category 4, um, which is about 1,000 hours. So tackling a language in a helpful mindset, just be like, okay, you got to get these hours down. What course you do, or like if I do a 6-week course, if you want to be very fluent, you need 1,000 hours. If you do 1,000 hours, if anyone does 1,000 hours of anything, they're going to be
And
quite
that's
good.
mostly 1,000 hours of input, both input and output, contact with the
No idea.
language, or
It's just study. I mean, it's probably a map show. It's probably um, based on traditional
hmm.
approaches. I found in class about 20 hours is enough to get the basics down.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, even if those hours, if they're off for whatever reason, it still gives you an idea of the type of language and how close it is to your language as a native English speaker, right? But it's actually,
mhm.
it has nothing to do with Zulu, but it's interesting that German is actually in the second group, and
Mm,
because they're
mm.
from the same origin as opposed to
Language family,
Spanish,
yeah,
French, etc. I just
yeah.
found it interesting.
It's interesting, yeah.
But
Epic.
okay, so Christine's Spain now. Nice, nice.
In Spain, epic. Jeepers.
And
Cool,
where
jealous.
where in Spain, Christine? And how's your Spanish going this time around? Happy to see that you're in Spain. Okay, and yeah, getting back to Zulu, obviously, so you learned the language because you lived in the country where the language was spoken, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to learn a language, like I called it, like not so popular language now, and you don't live in the country, how would you go about it? What would you do differently? you don't have security guards to talk to.
Mm. Well, actually, for everyone listening, Alvaro and I met in France at a teaching
Correct.
conference of learning a language while not in the country. I, tried to learn some French. Well, I gave myself a challenge to learn as much French as possible
Mm-hmm.
before going to this course, and I just immersed myself. Just did the hours. Just I did about must have been about 400 hours of
Mm-hmm.
French before going to France. When I got to France, I was fine with French. I could get by fine. I wasn't, couldn't understand everything, but I was quite conversational. And just starting from cartoons to stuff with subtitles. The subtitles aren't this coming at this from a language nerd perspective. So read the English subtitle, replay, listen to the French, do that a few times for a bunch of sections, watch the whole episode again of Big Bang Theory, watched from season 1 to 11 twice in French and twice in Spanish.
Okay.
Big nerd.
So you mean,
Many, many
correct me
hours.
if I'm wrong, you mean watching it in French with English subtitles first?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I had. I didn't have, back in the day as well. But before there was poor student back then. I didn't have money for Netflix and that, so we had to download stuff here and find a subtitle file there and scrounge around.
Okay.
So yeah,
So and then with those subtitles, you wanted to understand what was going on, and then you replayed it
yes,
without them, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So the a big issue as well is is comprehensible, compelling,
Right.
comprehensible
Right.
input.
Right.
It's got to be fun as
Yeah.
well. So that's a big issue I've had with Vietnamese
Mm.
actually. Even though I'm living here, finding very very compelling stuff is difficult. So I watch a lot of Peppa Pig in Vietnamese. That's what I got. But eventually, yeah, it's very difficult to get to a place where I can understand stuff. Like now, I can watch shows on Prime or whatever in Vietnamese with the Vietnamese um, the audio track and that, and I can understand just fine. But
Okay.
yeah, but the beginning, there's always this just the beginning lump is always the most difficult to get through. You
Right.
just gotta,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, you can you can only watch Peppa Pig so much, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I understand that. I understand that. And yeah, the reason why I ask is because, like you said, with French, I mean, even with French, you had to use a not non-comprehensible resource because you wanted it to be compelling,
fun, yeah, yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but the problem with Zulu of languages like that or Vietnamese, right? Is like we talked about at the beginning. Is there's no resources, there's no content adapted to or you know for people trying to learn the language, right?
Yeah, and in Vietnamese, there are there's lots of learning uh, resources for traditional learning methods.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
there's one. Oh, there's a lovely comprehensible Vietnamese channel that I found out about later. Um, but yeah, but with other languages, there's lots of TPRS demo lessons that I learned and used a lot of those actually in the beginning to get a basis of French and Spanish. Was just
Hmm.
watch demo TPRS lessons, which were available at the time then. Yeah, and those were very very helpful in getting good repetitions and um, good circling going and very very deep acquisition.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so I was thinking about for example, if you live in Vietnam now, so let's say you'd like to learn, I don't know, Georgian, for
Mm,
example. um, and so you don't live in the country, you're starting from scratch, and I haven't checked recently, but as far as I know, there's no comprehensible input Georgian
Mhm.
channel out there.
Mhm.
So would you? wh- what would you do in that situation? Not being in the country and not having access to any type of input. Like, would you try a teacher, an online teacher, or would you use the approach you use with French, meaning watching something in the language, Georgian in this case, with English subtitles, so you could understand and then replay it?
I think another the thing is the conversation exchange partners are a great way to learn
Mm,
for something like this. So I've done that plenty with Vietnamese. Um, yeah, especially coming from an English background, lots of people want to learn English. So
right.
there's a big thing to find conversation exchange partners. Um,
Good point.
I had a great maybe a 90-year-old man living in France as a conversation exchange partner when I was studying. We had a very nice chats. Eventually, I was starting to get to a good enough French level, and I was trying to speak English, to do the conversation exchange. And he's just like, "Don't just speak French. It's just easier." So we just used to chat. Um,
Right.
so I'd say conversation exchange partners would be great there.
Mm,
Um, Another thing would be teaching a teacher how to teach me, which I've done with with Vietnamese. Um, which just taking a teacher through just slow storytelling, circling techniques, teaching them how to do that for me in a way I want to learn. And yeah, I did that with a teacher here. Why? And after a bit, she's like, you're getting good very quickly. Like you're
hmm
very good. So she was quite surprised.
Yeah, that's a good
Very
idea.
cool.
Good idea. And you can even combine both of them. Like, you have a conversation partner with who's not familiar with comprehensible input, maybe. So maybe you can
Hmm.
teach him or her to
Hmm.
teach you the language that way. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, English your native language, Spanish my native one. So we're gonna be
Mm.
good. But I mean, like, we're gonna find people interested in learning our languages, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can
So I
even
see it.
try crosstalk at the beginning, right? Because if you're starting from scratch, yeah, cool.
I
But
see
yeah,
a
mhm.
comment here from Babu Christo. Wow, sawubona Babu Christo. Um,
You mean this one?
you said that.
Hmm.
I've noticed. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've noticed
Babu
that
Christo.
upload you haven't uploaded YouTube videos in more than a year. Will you do so again at some stage, or have you moved on to focus on other languages?
Yeah, Babu Christo. I've been teaching English in Vietnam. That's been taking a lot of my focus. But yeah, I'm getting back into making Zulu content. Yeah, I really enjoy making Zulu content. So 2025, let's go.
New Year's resolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It takes time. It takes time. Like, so,
Yeah.
for example, I see here. Like, I'll go with Christine in a second. But oh well, he said something.
Pues, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adrian just said that so good that you're back live, Alvaro. I'm happy to do it. I mean, I'm happy about it. And yeah, I wanted to connect that with what you said about making content. Is because I love doing this. Like, but I'm trying to invite more people for live interviews because when I'm on my own, I feel like there's no other things that I can talk about. Like, I've
Yeah.
been talking about
Yeah.
the same things over and over again, right? So it's like I have the motivation or the will, to do it, but
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like I run out of things to talk about.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
when you interview other people, there's always going to be different things, different experiences. That's why I love this format, right? But I'll just get into the point. I'll try to, do it as often as possible. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. Okay. Christine said that, oh, she moved to Spain. Nice. The city, mostly because it's YouTube. I won't say the exact city, but let's say the north of Spain. Yeah, so no need, Christine. I just sometimes I forget that we're in public here, right?
Mhm.
But happy to hear about it, Christine. And yeah, you can send me an email if you want and tell me more about your experience or you need anything, Christine. But happy to see that you're doing well in Spain. Awesome. And yeah, I remember she used to talk about the Peppa Pig is so annoying.
I don't hate on Peppa Pig. That's my adult childhood.
Yeah, because no, Christine used to say that she didn't find Peppa Pig so comprehensible for a cartoon. That was her
Hmm,
problem with it.
interesting. Mhm.
And perfect, Christine. All right. Yeah, Adrian says, I have to comment on your latest videos. Useful as usual. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adrian. Yeah. And remember that this is Adrian with my name, my new channel, my new channel name uh, about the Bible. I don't know how to translate that, but about that you change your channel name. Perfect, perfect, cool. Yeah, and Christine says mostly because of their high pitched voices.
I'm
It was,
Peppa Pig.
exactly, it
Yeah.
was easier to watch real people talking. Okay,
Mhm.
it happens at times with cartoons. Yeah.
Mhm.
But anyway, I like your recommendations, Brian, for people trying to learn a new language that is not as popular as French,
Mhm.
English,
Mhm.
German. So it's harder to find appropriate resources.
Mhm.
But yeah, like trying to find a partner is always a good move, good idea.
Yeah, partner and just very interesting material. If material is interesting, you'll and
Hmm.
learning is fun, then you can do the hours, and it's all about the hours in the
Perfect.
end. Um, yeah.
Perfect. And I've got one more thing that I wanted to ask you about, Brian,
Mm.
and it's not related to Zulu. Is that this works for any language, and that is that. So recently, we've like you said, we met in a comprehensible input workshop in France a few years ago, right? And we've always talked about the power of comprehensible input, and I
Mm.
still believe that to be true, and that's the most important thing when you're learning a language. But
Mhm.
recently, I've been talking about it on my channel, but recently I've realized that perhaps we were missing something on the power or the need for output.
Mm.
Meaning
Mm.
that, like I said, I still believe comprehensible input is the most important thing by far, and you can learn a language without it. But I'd say output is more important than we thought.
Mm.
That's what
I,
I've
uh,
realized. Yeah, go ahead.
there's a CPRS 2.0. Have you heard of
I have,
this
yeah.
thing going around? So yeah, so I think what my take on the importance of output would be output increases engagement. So teaching English here is all about getting the kids speaking and speaking and speaking.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what they're saying, and what they're saying isn't interesting or whatever, but it's just about kids
Interaction.
being
Mm-hmm.
uh, interacting or so it's just a very visual way, a very easy way to see, especially in a classroom setting, that someone is engaged
Mm-hmm.
and engaging with the material. So yeah, so it's also I think it's perfectly possible to learn a language never speaking at all. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, we're learning a language to communicate with others. Um,
Right.
so yeah, so I think output is definitely. I'm trying to incorporate it more as a way to increase engagement, and also to get the practice. I really don't like that word, to practice a language,
Mm-hmm.
because you could be fossilizing bad habits. But if you've with the teacher through nice repetitions, if you have a nice set of sentences or some nice content that's comprehensible that you've been through already, then to
Hmm.
practice that is great. I think
Yeah.
that's the sort of output goal would be to practice very well grounded material.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like I'd say, I wouldn't start speaking from day one. If I like, even like outside of the classroom, for someone trying to learn a language on their own or
Mm.
with a teacher. But I mean, what I mean is, I wouldn't start speaking from day one because I've got nothing to hang on to. Like there's nothing in
Mm-hmm.
my brain yet. But what I've realized is and I've noticed that with German, which is the language I'm learning right now,
Mm-hmm.
is that so I've been listening to German for a long time. Like my ability to understand the language is just unbelievable to me. But like
Mm.
I can understand native podcasts and things like that. But I realized recently that after so much time, we've talked about this. You start the process of creating sentences in your head, right? It's like the language in your head already. So you find yourself imagining situations in which you're using the language, and you're actually able to build those sentences and communicate in your head. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
little but here. I've
Well,
noticed a little difference between that and actually using the language later.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
well, first of all, in pronunciation, that it's perfect in your mind and then it's not. But also, I don't know if recall is the right word. Like, because when you're in a real life conversation, sometimes you don't have the time to think about what you want to. I mean, sometimes, most times, you don't have the time to think about what you want to say. And I feel like after you've been getting comprehensible input, so after, that's the most important thing again, there comes a moment in which you actually need to use the language. Let's not call it practice. And by using it,
mm-hmm.
you're going to practice recall.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
still
It
a
needs to be
different,
there.
yeah, like there's still a difference between building sentences in your head because you've been getting input and
Mm.
actually communicating, actually using them out loud and in real life scenarios.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's where output. I know you don't like it. I don't either. But let's call it output practice. Again, like you said, not practice of something that you're not familiar with, like something that you've been listening to for a long time.
yeah,
But there's still a gap that needs to be bridged there. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So
I think the. Oh, you want to just read some of these from
yep. So someone, Karen, we loved our classes
um,
with Tisha, Brian,
Mamu Karen, Siabong, Mamu Karen,
and here you said something
Siabong.
that
Thank you.
I'm not gonna repeat. Okay. Perfect.
um,
Yeah, and Christine says, I think once you have a good input base, writing and speaking are necessary if you want to get anywhere close to a high level. I mean, like a college educated speaker to be able to express with ease. Express yourself with ease and with accuracy. Yeah, I agree with that. That's pretty much what I was trying to say, but perfectly explained, Christine. Is like you talked about being possible to learn a language without speaking. And
mm,
I agree with it. But like I said, if I continue to do that with German forever, like even now, I've been listening to German for 3 years or so. I'm like more than 1,000 hours. And
mm,
like I said, I can understand native speakers and native podcasts.
mm,
And if that, I mean, that might be okay for someone, if you're trying to learn the language, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're
mm,
trying to actually use the language, I feel like there's a gap there. That's my point.
mm. It was a different section of the brain to engage. But I
Yep.
think if there was I've been having this thought if there's an evil twin to the comprehensible input hypothesis. I was thinking of this that if you were devil's advocate, you'd sort of say all languages are our own pigeon version of them. So no one person has the perfect knowledge of any language. We only have our own half baked version of it. So why
Hmm.
not practice our version of our language? So,
Okay.
I mean, that goes down a different road. Is making your own language by practicing it in isolation.
Right,
Practicing it too
right,
much,
right.
you're creating your own language, but it's your own language, and if you're understood, that's fine.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's mostly about getting to a point in which you might still make mistakes, but you
mm,
feel the fluency. You feel like I always use English as an example, but I'm sure I'm
mm,
making mistakes. I'm sure, but the way I feel when I'm speaking English is the way I want to feel with every language that I'm trying to learn. Meaning
mm,
that I might not sound perfect, I might not sound native, but I know it's
it's
fluent. I can get my point across at any point, whatever the topic. Well, I mean, if it's quantum physics, I wouldn't be able to do
mm,
that even in Spanish, right? But
mm,
my point is output. I recently I feel like output is necessary if you want to get to that
mm,
point in which you feel comfortable speaking the language and getting your point across and talking
mm,
about, you know, even if
mm,
sometimes the word is not exactly the way a
mm,
native
mm,
speaker would use it,
mm.
kind of your own language, like you said, right? But
Yeah, and I don't think maybe output will help you increase your level, but I think it's about practicing speaking what you know.
mhm.
Maybe
Right, 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 right.
that's
Yeah,
the yeah. So you won't be learning anything through
right.
outputting. You might learn what you don't know, but that doesn't help know it. But
Good
yeah,
point.
so
Good
yeah,
point. Yeah, like you're not gonna learn something new if you
yes,
haven't listened to it first or read,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, like you need input. Sorry, you need input to get it in your head.
yeah, yeah.
But like you said,
Just
feel like you need the output to use what you've just learned. That makes sense. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Epic.
exactly. Yeah, again, if I'm studying,
Contact crashing.
yep.
Hmm?
No, I mean, if I'm studying language from scratch, I'm not going to start speaking because there's nothing here, right? I need the input. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I meant, right? And Christine says, I think output helps to bridge the gap between what you know and, and what you can repeat, express. Yep, exactly.
And Mum Karen said as well.
Completely agree. I have so many Zulu words in my head and even wake up with Zulu words on my tongue, but conversation on Zulu is so difficult. I'm not comfortable to speak it. Right.
Is that Duolingo, Mamu Karen? Is the guy still on a how many day streak now? Karen and Andrew, the couple that were in Zulu lessons. Um, okay,
Mhm.
Zulu people are extremely patient and got that one.
Careful. Yep,
Patient and
good.
helpful. Yeah, I mean this was language. If it was easy, Oliver and I wouldn't have jobs. So,
Right, right, right. Yeah, but then
um,
of course there's a thousand nuances later. Like there's people who are more outgoing, like you talked about. You go out and talk to security guards, and that might be
mm-hmm,
frightening for a different person. So there are a lot of those dynamics as well. But I don't know. I feel like that part it's a necessary part if you want to actually use the language, right? Because back to my example, I was in Germany last summer in Berlin. And I remember there was a guy, I talked about it, but there was a guy in the train, like just telling stories about childhood for whatever reason. But
mm-hmm,
I understood everything he was talking about.
mm-hmm.
And then we interacted for a moment. And, you know,
You needed to
I,
save something back, like.
right, right, right. I knew what to say sometimes. But it was a quick interaction. But I felt like
Mm,
if the conversation went on longer, I would have struggled because I would need more time to think about what I wanted to say and things like that. Right?
mm-hmm,
Even though if I had the time to sit down at home and think about what I wanted to tell that guy, I would have been able to do so, but
mm,
because I
mm,
had the time.
mm,
So by practicing the output, by practicing what you've learned through input, again, you sort of bridge that gap and you don't need to think about it consciously.
mm,
That's what I'm focusing on recently. You know,
mm,
but again, I totally agree with you. Whether you're someone learning the language on your own, or what you're in a classroom environment, or as a teacher, right? Um, how can we encourage output
mm,
without
mm.
forcing it, and output that the students are actually capable of producing? Right? That's
Mhm.
the sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah. I think TPRS 2.0 is a good. Oh, you're right.
Sorry.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think TPRS 2.0 is a good try at that. I think they just do a lot of. I think that's why they're calling it 2.0. It's less about students sitting and absorbing, but just about more engaged,
Right.
repeating or saying in your own words what's happening, just to stay on
hmm
the ball. Um,
It's like combination both input and output, right? Like more emphasis
mhm.
on output while still understanding the importance of input. Right?
Yeah, but I think output for engagement's sake.
hmm
Um,
Good
that's
point.
Kelvin.
Kelvin, output also depends on the audience. Zulu people are very patient and appreciative when you try and speak to them, which makes learning the language a pleasure.
Mm. It's a very special language to learn in South Africa. Um, yeah, so I mean, it would light up people's faces if I'd walk into a supermarket and I'm paying for my groceries or whatever, and just start speaking in Zulu. Cashier would just look at me and just be like, "What's going on?" Like,
Hmm.
um, especially with South Africa's history of division, for
hmm
someone of a different color to have shown that they have invested in your culture enough
Right,
to
right.
spend 1,000 hours learning your language.
hmm
It's very special. Um,
Yeah, that always helps. Like when you don't feel judged, that always helps. And
mm,
yeah,
mm,
I guess that's like you said with, again, quote unquote, not so popular languages. Native speakers appreciate it because,
mm,
again, quote unquote, you don't have the need to do that, right?
mm, mm.
Because people learning English, they want it for work, they want things like that. But yeah. And Kelvin says, not the same with French, believe me. I taught myself French to fluency and it wasn't easy. Right.
And then you speak French to a French person, probably be like, "Yes, you should learn French. You should have known French. Yes, you should know." Good.
So,
Um,
yeah, true. Oh, Karen said, yeah. Oh, I remember this word from France. Yebo, that's like yes, or
oh my gosh, remember that word? Do you remember any other words? What was the word that we had?
I
Uh,
remember umutsi, the tree, right?
oh my gosh,
And that was like 8 years ago.
that was in
16.
2016.
Yep.
From 2016, Alvaro, you will remember the Zulu word.
That's
The
the
power of comprehensible input. Is
exactly.
that you're going
Umutsi.
to say it? Yeah.
And I
We are.
remember I also remember, I mean, I remember the word for no was like the tough one, like a really tough sound, like ta, ta.
Amazing.
I forgot.
Ta.
Ta, you know?
Ta.
Yeah, I remember
How
that.
cool is that? Wow.
Cool. And yeah, probably if I think about it, I might remember others like Mutsi. Yeah. Anyway,
What was it?
Christine,
There's a tree. Yeah.
yeah, because you created a story about a tree in
Yeah.
Zulu, and we, the other teachers, were the students, right? That's why I
Yes, yes,
remember.
yes.
Christine, because everyone, even native speakers, have that gap, but they can use more of what they've learned with input because they've had to use output, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Perfect. And portrait of a lion. Okay. Well done on learning Zulu and showing respect for the culture.
Ngiyabonga. Thank you. Um,
I'm learning Greek. I'm relearning Irish. Having fewer books for beginners, intermediate makes it harder. I'm using comprehensive input and Nikki where I can. Yep. Yeah, that's what we mentioned, right? Like it's always more complicated when it's not as easy to find comprehensible
Materials.
resources. Yeah. Mm. But some of the ideas that Brian you mentioned are helpful, I think, when it
Mm.
comes to these languages. Yeah. And also finding a
Okay,
partner
cool.
is always going to be more of a um, real life scenario, like a real interaction, like you talked about. Because I love watching content at home, comfortable, but
Mm.
there's nothing even close to a real interaction in real life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, man, Alvaro. Got
Yeah.
sick there.
Okay.
Epic. Cool.
So
Thank you.
yeah, that was it for today, and yeah, we don't
Epic.
have any other questions or comments. But yeah, any final message, Brian? While I keep coughing.
Why do you keep coughing? Oh, everybody, pray for
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Alvaro.
I'm good.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks so much for having me on on your program. It's great to talk about the whole journey. I hope other people jump into the hours game again. Get those rack those hours up. Um, of comprehensible inputs. Try and find stuff that you understand most
Hmm.
of, and have fun with it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, thank you very much, Brian, again, and thank you to everyone who was here, who commented or not commented. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Christine.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to hear from you again, and hope you have a great time in Spain. And yeah, so thank you again, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. On my channel, I don't know if it'll be in English or Spanish. We'll see. I'll try to get more people to share their experiences and all the teachers and so on. Thank you, Kelvin.
Thanks, Calvin. Thanks, Calvin. Email me,
Yeah, I
please. I'll
it's
put the
I
thing
put it
there. Yeah.
somewhere at the beginning, like your email
Okay.
address, and yeah. So have a good day, everyone. Thank you, Brian, and I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.